This is a prepaid call from Broken to Redemption. Yeah, that's my squad.
Was all a dream. When I was dead broke, then I couldn't picture them.
Oh God, I need you to get me out again, God. I'm locked up behind these walls again, God. I got these chains, I'm shackled from my hands to my feet. If you get me out this one more time, God, I promise.
Broken to redemption.
Inmate at the county correctional facility. All phone calls are subject to press 1 now. Thank you.
Your call has been accepted. It was all a dream.
Broken to redemption.
Yo, welcome back to another episode of Broken to Redemption podcast. I am your host, Brandon Scotto. I got Tara from Arizona going to come in here and share about her life, prison, addiction, and where she's at now in life. Let's go ahead and bring her in. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I am blessed.
Yep. Amen. Same.
Blessed. Even when hard times are hard, I'm blessed.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we're sober,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
How's the new year treating you so far?
It's good. It's
Yeah.
good. Just trying to live and continue my sobriety and work.
Yeah.
It's
We got a
always
lot of
fun.
I always tell people from the places that we've been, we have a lot of catching up to do.
Oh,
Like,
you ain't lying.
no, like I tell like younger generation, like 20s, early teens, like, hey, make sure you get on it now. I said, because if you go down this road, down this life, you got to work triple time just to make up for that lost time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't get a 401k till like last year. Like, that's not
I
gonna,
didn't get a
that's-
401k until just here recently.
yeah.
So, and it's
And then,
like,
and then I'm only putting 3%. California's
yep,
too expensive. You can't afford to put 6% in there.
right.
So yeah,
I mean, I'm a little bit more blessed when it comes to that. I actually do the maximum because I living in North Dakota now, so things are a lot cheaper here, and that's kind of there's a couple reasons why I'm out here, but that is one of the main things too, that no matter what happens out here, I don't know if I could even leave here because the cost of living is cheap and I'm so far behind on life, so far.
yeah.
And yeah.
That's me and my wife and family. We're trying to make it to Idaho. That's where her in-laws, and then my family's in Washington. So anywhere right there,
Yeah.
it's better than here.
California is super expensive. My daughter is going, she moved to Arizona or to California when I left Arizona, and she's going to college out there, and it's just expensive, but she's got her grandparents she's living with right now, but still everything,
Yeah,
yeah, there's
gas
no
is
way.
like almost. It went down a little bit, but before it was like 409 or something like that.
It's 255 yesterday. I was talking to
Yeah,
out here. I was talking to my sister yesterday, and she's like, "How much are gas prices?" She's like, "Make me jealous."
yeah, make me jealous. We went to Idaho for Christmas, and as we're driving out of California, you just see the gas prices go down, 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 and it's like, hell
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Then you're coming back and you see them, you're like, welcome home.
Yep. My daughter's like, she knows that she'll never be able to live there, because just the cost of everything is so high.
Yeah.
She's in Southern California too. She's down by Anaheim's.
Oh, I'm
But
in Buena Park. That's right next door.
okay.
Yeah. So did she go to Cal State Fullerton?
I don't know really. So she went down there and she was going to start community college, and then she had some issues with that because she hadn't been at her grandparents' house long enough, and so now she's kind of waiting, and she's works at Goldfish Swim School, and they're like promoting her up and up and up, and so she's doing that until next semester or next year for
Okay.
college, so she can start college. Because
Nice.
they wanted like $3,000 for, plus this is what she got off of the school funds or whatever. They were gonna pay, but she needed to pay $3,000 for one semester for 2 classes.
Dang.
And she doesn't even know what she wants to do. So,
Oh
yeah.
yeah,
So she's like, "Yeah,
take a break.
yeah."
Take a break.
Exactly. So she's living her best life, you know? She's a good
Good,
kid.
good, good.
Very good kid.
Does she like it down here in Southern California?
Sh She does. She wants me to go down there. She's like, yeah, it's so nice down there, you know,
It's
and she
very
lives with her
nice.
grandparents, and in a very nice house. Well, she's in Anaheim's, you know, so that tells you. And
Well,
yeah, it is.
Anaheim has some pretty rough spots, right? But like
Oh, okay.
they got like Anaheim Hills that's pretty nice up there, really big houses. And don't
Yeah,
get me
what
wrong, some parts of Anaheim are nice too, but
yeah.
there's a lot of hoods.
Yeah. Well, I don't know anything about, I mean, I've been down to California. I don't really know anything about California. She's in the nice part of Anaheim's.
Okay.
That's what I do know.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
That is good.
Yeah.
So do you want to give me like a little brief about your life before we jump into the questions?
Yeah. So, okay. I grew up the oldest of 6 kids. My parents used drugs, and I I don't really recall, you know, I've been doing a lot of self-searching about this lately because my stepfather, who is my dad, who raised me since I was 2, so he's all I remember. He, after my parents went to prison, he really tried to take us kids and show us a better life. And at that point, I was already a teenager. I had spent 6 months in juvenile, and I just went left. And I don't know, like, I tried to figure out, because I remember like always being like, I'm not going to do drugs because I see my parents doing drugs, and especially meth, you know, that's what they did. And I was like, I'm never going to do that. And it just was, you know, I was doing whatever I wanted by the time I was like 13 years old, running away, went to juvie for 6 months. Um, and then my dad tried to take us. I used meth for the first time at 17, and I it was, you know, a progression, how it all happens. You know, I used it once, and then I guess like going back to why I started. I don't know. Like, I really don't know why I started using, because as a kid, I never wanted to use. And but I know now today from the 12-step program and my doing all of the stuff that I've done about myself, you know, I go back and I look into that, and I have never been comfortable in my own skin. And I remember when I started doing meth, I was like, I felt like I could be somebody I wanted to be. Like, I was just outspoken. I just, it changed me, you know, and it made me feel like I was cool, I guess. I don't, you know, and then from there on, I, I don't even know. I had my daughter at 20. So it was meth for a long time. Got in a lot of trouble in Oregon, in and out. I turned 18 months of probation into 8 years in Oregon. And it was in and out of jail. And I remember I'd be in jail and I'd be like, I'm not going to use. I'm going to get out. I'm not going to use because I don't like it in here. And I'd get out. And what was the first thing I fucking did? I went and used. And so then at like 24, I took off down to Arizona because I had had a sister that I had never met. She was through my dad's side, my real father's side. And I went down there. I quit shooting dope, but I was smoking dope. And I just started getting in trouble down there. I ended up getting pregnant. And I wanted a kid my whole life so bad. I wanted a kid because I just wanted something to love me like I love them. And I was like, I was for sure once I had a kid that I was going to get clean. I mean, I did get clean, you know, at certain parts, at certain times, but there was that itch to get high. And I moved back to Oregon when I was pregnant. I ended up getting charges again in Oregon and was back on probation. And I was just, raw dogging it, trying to stay sober, and I couldn't. And I lost my daughter when I lost her once. I think she was probably like 3 years old. Me, my sister, and my mom were all getting drunk. We're all on probation. We're not supposed to be around each other, but that's my family. And where I'm from is a very small town. And so we I ended up getting arrested. My probation officer's like, "This is it. I'm taking your daughter." I went to treatment. I ended up going to treatment. I got my daughter back, and then I got out and I was sober for that was the longest period of time. I made it to a year sobriety. And I went to my meeting. I got my chip. And what do you know? I walked out of there and I walked straight to the store without I don't even know. Went straight to the store and got a beer. And I was it was, a rocky situation. I ended up getting off parole. I moved to Arizona so my daughter could be closer to her father. But me and her father started using together. And I kind of, his mom took my daughter and I used that. And um, we were just out partying. And so after that, she finally took my kid, and it kind of I had to go back to Oregon because I was facing charges. I went back to Oregon, and then I got in more trouble, and so then I took off from Oregon. I ran from the law, and I was trying to get sober, this, that, and just all the nonsense that we do, and then finally her grandma was like, "You're not seeing her, you're not nothing." Although her dad was getting to see her, and he was using drugs, and he was living in the house. And then I started using heroin, and that just like completely numbed me, and it just made me get through what I was getting through. And I remember before going to prison for like a couple years, I was crushed. I wanted my kid in my life, and I couldn't have her in my life. And I wanted out of the addiction so bad. But every time I went to detox, I went back to the same toxic environment. And I was like, "Oh, I'm not going to use, but that's all I knew. That I would trap house, trap house. I was like, I'm not going to use heroin. So I go and then I would use meth, but I couldn't use meth without heroin because it got me too amped up and I hated that feeling after. And I, just did all the things, you know what I mean? I was running amok. I had no conversation. I had no communication with my daughter. Um, doing all the things from A to Z. I've done it all. And like I said, I remember crying. I would cry and be like, I just want out of this so bad. I want out so bad. And then, I got wrapped up in doing returns, and I thought I was doing the lesser of the crime. I was returning stuff. I knew some people that were going to all the Lowe's and Home Depots all over the valley. That's what they would do every day, all day long. They would steal high quality items, and then they would, have somebody return them. And I thought I was doing the less of the crime, doing the return. And come to find out, I was doing the bigger of the crime. I ended up getting trafficking stolen property, which is the same as trafficking drugs. So it's trafficking stolen property and identity theft. And I got sentenced to 9 years. And the person that was under investigation that did the crime, so the female got 3.5 years in prison for organized retail theft. The guy got probation, and I ended up getting 9 years. And
How old were you at
I
that time?
ugh, I mean, I must have been like I'm 43 now. I must have been 32 maybe. Yeah, because 32, 33, because I'm getting ready to get off parole in 2 months, and I was sentenced to 9 years. I did 7.5 years incarcerated, and then I've been out since September of 2020 or 2024.
Just
And
for just for returning items? That's crazy.
and I would sit and ponder that. shit in prison. Like, why did I get so much time? Why? Like, this is bullshit. And but
Did the
you know
guy
what? God,
did
what?
the people stealing it get caught too or no?
Yeah. So that's what she got, 3.5 years for organized retail theft, and he got probation.
Wow.
And I got caught doing one return for them.
Wow.
So let's, the bigger picture is I was doing all the shit.
Right.
I was, and all the things that I have done in the past, I couldn't believe that I had not made it to prison at this point. How
That's
I had
fair.
skated, how I had skated through everything that I had done, because yeah. And I mean, and I was pissed. I was pissed at God. In fact, when I went to prison, I said, I'm not going to be, I didn't believe in God. God, all the things I had been through, losing my daughter and everything, I did not believe in God. When I went to prison, I said, I'm not going to be one of those that come to prison and find Jesus. But oh boy, did he have a story for me. you know, um, so in the bigger picture, now that I look back, like 7.5 years is a long time. Seven
Yeah.
and a half years, it's a long time. And my first 2.5 years, in prison was, I mean, I couldn't believe that I had gotten this much time. I couldn't believe that this was my life. And I was coming down, and it took me 2.5 years, 3 years to clear my head of that fog of all that addiction. I mean, and I was just depressed, and it was horrible. And um, but when I look back on it now, I needed that time.
Yeah.
I needed every bit of that time, and God knew what he was doing. And I'm grateful for the time that I got, because I just needed that. I mean, I would want to say that I hope that I would have those same feelings of I was done. When I walked into prison, I knew that was going to be, I was done. I wanted out so bad. Um And I want to say that I would hope to say, if I was sentenced to 2.5 years to 5 years, that I would be the same person I am today. But it took me every bit of that 7.5 years to find myself, to get myself to where I'm at, to grow my relationship with Jesus. Um, and I needed all that time. So another thing I want to say, so I did not believe in Jesus. And I, and people would be like, prayer circles, you know how it is in prison.
Yeah, yeah.
Prayer circles, like the whole God thing, you have all these people. And I would be like, no, I'm not, like, I'll step out. I don't want to pray with you. That's not my gig. However, what happened was my mom died 2 years into my sentence. And although a pretty rough background with my mom, because I couldn't ever understand why she did drugs, and just there's a whole backstory with her. Like, um, I love my mom dearly. And there is, like, she is just my rock. In my first 2 years before she died, she was the only person that was there for me in prison. She would send me pictures, she would send me cards, and she just knew, you know what I mean? Like, she knew that I needed her. And I knew I knew when I went to prison that I was going to leave and my mom wasn't going to be there. I don't know how I knew that, but I knew. Like I said, she struggled with addiction for many years. She couldn't stop using drugs. And her biggest fallout was alcohol. She couldn't stop alcohol. And I think she was still dabbling here and there, with the drugs before she died, but it was mainly alcohol. She had Hep C, and she couldn't stop drinking, and it took over her liver, and it killed her. But so I was like, I kept telling her, Mom, like, I'm so scared of losing you. And I would cry to her on the phone, like, and she'd be like, I know. And she would hide things from me, like, how bad she was doing. And because she didn't want me to worry. And anyway, so she ended up dying. And I remember when she died, that opened my relationship to God because I was like, I had to believe she was in heaven.
Yeah.
I could not believe, you know what I mean? I had to believe that she was in heaven. So that kind of started opening my relationship to God. Now, God, it wasn't all like, aha, the God came out of the sky and, just was there. You know what I mean? It was a progression. And the 12-step program is what made me closer to God and to get me to where I am today.
So
Um,
how was it like stepping into prison for the first time? Because it's a different world than county jails, right? Like,
okay. So I was in Maricopa County Jail. I went to Maricopa County Jail, and that's like they say one of the roughest jails in America, like, especially when Joe Arpaio was in office. And it's way different than what I'm used to. Like, I called my mom crying, and I was like, the jail that I was used to going into in Oregon is like a Hilton compared to Maricopa County. And it was fighting, it was people sick. And this is another thing. When I went to jail, I'd been sick off of heroin several times outside. But when I went into Maricopa County, I was fucking sick. And I I still pray to this day to God to never let me forget that, because it was one of the most horrible experiences I've ever experienced in my life. I had never been so sick. And I don't know how. I mean, probably because I was outside and I could always end up getting drugs, but this was completely nothing. Um, and I remember I would lay on my bed and people would be like, "Are you sick?" Well, yeah, no shit, I'm sick. You could tell I'm sick. I would lay on my bed. I was puking. I was shitting myself, my bed. I would try to make it to the toilet, and I would shit on the floor all the way to the toilet. I would go in the shower, it was an open shower, and I would lay on the shower and just in that hot water. I don't know. Did you do heroin too?
yeah, but I'm
Or yeah.
so I never got too strung out, right? Like I don't know, I was always scared of it killing me, right? But
Right.
if you put it in a rig, I'm gonna do it, right? But it was never to the
Mhm.
point where I got sick. Like, I do it once, twice every couple of days. It was never just constant. Like, when I
Okay.
got too high,
Yeah.
just like you, "Oh, I think I need to do a little bit of this. Let me just calm down a little bit."
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that was like, and like I said, I would go in the shower, I would lay there on the ground, and the showers are disgusting. They're gross.
Yeah.
And there's all these ladies in there taking showers, and I would just lay on that floor in that hot water because my body hurt so bad. And I would get right up from that, wrap myself in a blanket, go lay on my bed for 15, 20 minutes, maybe get 15, 20 minutes of sleep, and I'd be right back up and back to the shower, back to the toilet. And then it was horrible. I never want to forget that. I told you, I asked God years later after I started believing and stuff. I said, please don't ever let me forget that, because as long as I never pick up again, and get to myself to that point, I will never have to go through that again. And I never want to. And then I was sick for probably a week and a half, 2 weeks of shitting and puking and couldn't do nothing but lay in the shower and go to my bed. And then after that was restless leg syndrome. And I don't know if that's worse than the first part or
Right.
not, but it was horrible.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and yeah, it was bad. And so back to the question, so Maricopa was horrible, and I was like, and all the fighting and stuff, like, and I was kind of, a little bit scared. Like, I mean, I kind of always been a fighter and a little Billy badass, and but I was in a new element here. And so then I went to prison. I spent 2.5 years on a max yard because of my time. And like I said, I at that point I was trying to I was I was still like coming down in that fog of the drugs coming off of my brain, and I was around murderers, and I seen some crazy shit on that yard. I seen some crazy shit, but probably the craziest thing I seen was these girls were we could smoke in the in well, Arizona you can't anymore. They just took that away here within the last few months. But there's down in the yard you could smoke, and the girls would be down, I'd go down and smoke cigarettes, and the girls be fighting, and these girls were fighting, and like, you kind of like step back and watch the drama go down, and this girl disappeared and says, "All right, I got something for you, bitch." And they're sitting down there playing cards, and bitch is like, "All right, I'll be right here for you, motherfucker." And this girl went to her room and boiled a cup of water with her stinger and came out and threw that shit on her. And that shit was crazy. Like, instantly, I mean, you could just imagine, obviously we're all
Yeah.
going on lockdown. We're all in the yard, like getting told to get down, that was one of the craziest things I seen. And and like I said, I was kind of just to myself. I made a couple friends, but there's a lot of, and you wouldn't I didn't think this. There's a lot of chomo girls on a Max yard and it's not necessarily that they're chomos. There was a few that were chomos themselves, but it's that they allowed their husbands or whatever. They knew that there was sexual, things going on with their kids or whatever, and they never said anything. They allowed it. So there was a lot of that. There was some baby killers on there. There was just a lot of bad people on there, and
Right.
I didn't come out of myself because you didn't know who you were talking to, who you're sitting next to. So, like I said, I met a couple friends on there, but I was just really still broken at that time.
You guys don't check
So
paperwork in there for the women
Uh,
like the men do?
so, no. So that's the other thing. So I know that the men's prisons are a lot more political, a lot more. The female prison that I was in, it wasn't that political. Wasn't that they didn't do that? And in fact, I watched this girl who, she was a teacher and she was all over the news for a long time, and she had sex with her eighth grade student. And this had been an ongoing thing. We have TVs, we could have our own TVs and stuff. And
Yeah.
so we all watched this. And when that girl hit the yard, all of the Chomo girls immediately surrounded her so she didn't get her ass beat.
What?
And yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's
Yeah. So,
crazy.
I mean, the yeah, there were times that there was some couple girls that got their asses when it came to hurting children and stuff. There was some fights that happened that mostly happened in cells, not in front of me. But like I said, the female prison isn't the one I was in wasn't it's not what the TV makes it out to be. It's not, you know. A lot of girls protect each other, and um yeah, it's not the same. I know the men's prison is completely different. They do check paperwork.
Yeah.
The politics, that just really doesn't happen a lot on, not that I seen anyways, you know?
So when you first went to
But I went,
prison, go ahead.
go ahead. Nope, go ahead.
When you first went to prison, were you angry, dumb, or defeated?
All of the above. I, I was all of the above. I, yeah, I didn't know myself. I was broken. I was angry. Um, yeah, all of it. Just all of it.
So
I
you
don't
were
think I put a I don't think I put a real smile on my face until I was in prison for a couple years.
so you
I
you
was
said you said the minute you walked in there, you knew that you were done, right? So like even when you were dope sick and had all these symptoms of coming down, you never thought to like go grab a bag in there? What was it even available?
In the Maricopa County jail that I was
Yeah.
in, yes, it was coming in. People were getting that shit in all the time. And I seen some people. This girl had some stuff that came in, and I seen the people surround her, and I almost was like, "Hey, try to get some." But no, I was just too sick when I was in Maricopa County. In fact, when my mom died, I almost got some heroin. There was some heroin on the yard, and I almost got heroin because, I was beside myself. Like I just lost my mom, and I couldn't deal with those feelings. I hadn't yet come to God. I hadn't gotten into the recovery part of aspect. Um, and but what stopped me was how expensive it was and
Yeah.
how little of a
Yeah.
piece I was gonna get.
Yep.
That was like, oh, and I had been sober for 2 years at the time. And I probably would have got high off that shit, but at that time I was like, nah, they wanted some crazy ass amount. No.
Yeah. It's like
And
a hun.
so
It's like $100 for this little booger, and you're like, I'm
yeah.
okay.
And that's exactly what it was. It was like $110 for this tiny, tiny piece. And
Yeah.
I was like, nope.
No.
Yeah. So the
They.
other time, so when we get into, I went to a minimum yard and I was leaving prison. I was working at this place, leaving prison, and the alcohol was a big thing out there. And there was one time that, they were going to drink alcohol, and they were like, "You want to drink tomorrow?" And I was like, "No," because at this time I've gotten into my recovery. I've got a relationship with God, and I was like, I am leaving prison with 7.5 years sobriety. Like I was set on that. And so I remember being like, when they asked me that night if I was going to drink, I'm like, no. But that next day, when they were drinking, listen, I felt like I was missing out on something. My heart was pounding. I was anxious. I was like, and I felt like I was missing out on something. And I remember that day clear as hell. And I was like, is this how it's going to be when I get out? Because I don't know if I can do this. We're inside, and this is how I feel. I don't know that I could do this outside. And thank God that removal has been taken away, because I am around people that drink. My boyfriend drinks casually. He doesn't drink very much, but he does have some beers here and there. And I'm okay with being around it. What I can't be around and what I don't put myself around is partying. A lot of people partying, because I've been to that too, and it wasn't fun for me. You know, everybody was getting fucking shit faced, and I was like, this is not fun to
Yeah.
me.
So
Yeah.
when did you really dive in with God in your recovery?
Okay, so like I said, my mom died at two
Hmm.
years into and even then I was just like, I had to believe my mom was in heaven. And I had got called to the chaplain because, I had lost a family member. They wanted to check on me, make sure I was okay. He gave me a book. I kind of started reading. I don't even remember that book, but it's a very prevalent book in prison. I don't remember what it's called. And I kind of looked into that and was reading a little bit in the Bible. But it wasn't until I got moved after 2.5 years on a max yard. I got moved over to a minimum yard because I hit 5 years. And I had been in no trouble at that time, no tickets, no nothing. I was a model inmate. But I was scared to be crazy on that yard. I seen this girl get a hot cup of coffee thrown in her face, and her face completely melt. And
Yeah.
so I was a little scared. Um, and I don't say that lightly, because I always try to act tough. I ain't scared of nothing, but I was kind of a little bit nervous on that yard. Um, so then I went to a minimum yard, and the minimum yard, there's retention jobs, they call it. And it's a very good program they have in Arizona. It's good and it's bad. It's got its pros and its cons. You get to leave basically most all the retention jobs, you get to leave. And what happens is so I worked, I think the top out that I worked was for like five something an hour, 5.25 maybe an hour. I started out 4.75 and then got 25 cents every 90 days until I was tapped out at 5.25, I think at the time. And I got a job. I didn't have my GED at that point. So the only job that I could get as a retention job was a place called Hickman's Family Farms. And it's slave labor. It's you go out there and you work your ass off. I worked 12-hour days, a lot of times 6 days a week, at a go pace. Like no, it was slave labor. Like hands down, a lot of people could not handle that job. They couldn't. They'd be all gun ho to go out there. You have to have a mindset that you ain't stopping and you're gonna, But what happens was you get that money, they take, and I don't know the exact percentages, so I'm not really going to say, but it's like the prison takes a certain amount off of what you make every paycheck, and they charge you room and board
Really?
for in the prison. Yeah. And this only
Wow.
happens at retention jobs. Only happens at retention jobs. But the other portion of that money, and I don't know what they take, I think it's 30%. And so I don't know the correct percentage. I don't remember. But I think it's 30% they take off the rip of your paycheck. And then there's another percentage they put into your retention account that you cannot touch. You leave prison with that money. Um, and then the other percentage, there's a little percentage of that money that goes onto your spendable. So working and my hours varied. I worked a lot of times, like I said, I was there during COVID. COVID hit and they actually moved all the female workers from the prison to a different location, and all other jobs were cut off because of COVID. Nobody could go in and out of the prisons, but they actually moved all the female workers to a different location, which is crazy. It's unheard of. It was a big thing in the paper. Anyway, so I would work, a lot of times 12-hour days, 6 days a week. And I mean, I walked out of prison with a pretty good amount of money. I worked there for almost 4 years. I walked out with $24,000.
Damn.
And yeah. But like I said, if you think about that, for 4 years
Right.
of all that work, you know what I mean? That's not a lot of money. But I had that mindset. I need this money. I need to be able to get myself at a start. And so, I mean, I was very determined. But so I went to the minimum yard. I started doing HA meetings, Heroines Anonymous. I got a sponsor. I started working my steps, and then I got a job out at Hickman's. And then COVID hit, and we were all moved to a different location. So I kind of lost my track with the sponsorship, the sobriety, because nobody's coming in and out. I went out. We were out there for almost 2 years, I think. I came back in. I dived back into what I could around the job that I was doing because you're working a lot and you slept a lot. But got a sponsor. I started doing my steps again after we came back to the prison. And it was still a little bit of a slow process, but some things happened. I came back through it was about a year and a half before I left prison. I came back in the gate and I had kitchen sugar from that morning from the kitchen because I always took my sugar and I put it in my coffee out at work. And I came back in the gate and I caught the wrong officer and she wrote me a introducing contraband ticket. I was immediately taken uh, off of the roster. I couldn't go out the gate no more until I seen disciplinary. And um I was, freaking out because at this point I'm at the time where I could lose my program, which I never ended up getting out on that program because of some other charges that I had from when I was younger, some assault charge that I didn't end up getting that program. But I was at the point where if you got a ticket, like you were going to lose your program. And at that point, I thought I was getting out in March because I thought I was for sure going to get the program. I did not. But, I was stressed out on the yard and all this stuff. And I ended up I ended up getting to go after I got my ticket. I did get I got it lowered. It wasn't an introducing contraband. It was a contraband ticket. It was some bullshit. It was some bullshit all the way around. And, then when I went to the CO4 and I'm like, hey, can I go back to work? And he's like, let me think about this. And so then after a couple weeks, he was like, you can go back to work. And at that point, I just done some real praying, searching, and I said, no, you know what? Fuck this. I got enough money right now. I can start focusing a lot more on recovery and just getting myself grounded for walking out the doors and not consuming myself because that job was consuming. Job was super consuming. I mean, it was hard. It was physically hard. It was mentally hard. It was challenging. You know what I mean? And it's just a lot, you know? And so I was like, you know what? I'm not going back. And I took that year and a half and I mean, like I said, I had already done my steps. Had a sponsor. I was doing all those things, but I took that last year and a half to I got some stupid yard job, you know, and really started. I did a class called Way Out class, which is with my sponsor at the time. And there we did a class with other inmates. I started sponsoring women, and man, that and I before that I was like, oh, I'd never be a sponsor because I don't really, you know, I don't feel like I'm the person that would be good for that. But I ended up sponsoring some girls, and that's where that's that's what keeps you in recovery. That you get to walk your steps back over with those people. I really liked being a sponsor. I don't have any. I'm in a very rural area. We can get into that in a few. And so I'm not as involved in I'm not in as involved, like I'm not able to go to as much meetings and do all the things I was doing in Arizona before. I'm in North Dakota now. But I am reaching out and trying to guide into those directions now.
So walking out of prison after 7.5 years, what scares you more, freedom or responsibility?
All of it. So working at Hickman's for 4.5 years, that made me learn a lot. I never had a fucking job. I mean, I did, but I mean, they didn't last and they were nothing. You know what I mean? My job was all the things we do in the drug world. And, so working at Hickman's taught me a lot about myself. It taught me that I could do anything. I could work anywhere and I'll be fine. Just keep that mindset. So I was, I had that money to come out of prison. I'm grateful. I'm blessed. I like most people don't come out of prison. They don't have that. You know
No.
what I mean? They're starting from zero. And, um, but I worked very hard on getting that money. And today I'm a very frugal person. I didn't just get out and blow that money. I spent that money wisely. I still have money in savings, and basically it's probably not that money. I mean, I've done spent that money that I got out of prison with, but I've been able to add to savings, with my job and stuff. It's very important that I have that because I really have a fear of being broke.
Yeah.
And what if something happens? You know what I mean? And I'm very frugal. Yeah, all the above scare me. You know what I mean? Becoming a productive member of society. I've been out of prison a year and a half, and I've had challenges. Like I'm like a baby in the world, like learning. I'm learning to I took some classes in prison on credit. On how to build your credit. The good thing is that I was in prison so long that basically all of my stuff had fell off of my credit. And I got out at having no credit. But I've been having to learn how to build my credit and do all the things we do as adults. My 401k, is first time setting up my 401k, uh, managing all my bills, making sure that I'm responsible and I pay all my bills first before I even look at what I have for money to spend, you know? It's been rough. Like, I'm 43 years old and learning all this stuff, and it's like, fuck, man. And some of these things that, like, I should be way further ahead in life, but you know what? I'm not. And here I am. I'm doing the best that I can. And I think I'm doing okay, you know? I struggle. I still struggle, you know what I mean? But
I think
it's
everybody struggles. Like even people
right.
that got it together, they may not struggle with money, but they struggle with something.
Right. Yeah.
So you work in a detox now or something like that, or you worked?
Okay. So when I left, when I got out of prison, I got a job at a place called CBI in Arizona. And it was mental health crisis and detox. And I was there. I knew I was coming to North Dakota because I started talking to this guy that right before I got out of prison. I started talking to one of my old friends that we kind of dated before, but not really. But we'd known each other a long time, and he also used drugs at one point in time. But he at the point he came to North Dakota when I went to Arizona, and he has also an 18-year old daughter, and he stopped using drugs, left to where we were from, and came out here, and we had always been friends, always stayed in contact. I went to prison. I mean I had contact with him here and there before I went, and then I went to prison and nothing, you know. And then right before I got out of prison, I ended up getting he we kind of got in contact because he reached out to my sister. I got his number, blah blah blah, and we're like, ah. And I had been, celibate for 7.5 years, and everything he said sounded good. Everything I said sounded good. So I kind of knew that this is where I was going to come. He has a 2.5-year-old daughter, and um, or a 3-year-old daughter. She was 2.5 at the time. And so he's not going to leave here. He's a very good dad. And so I knew that I was going to come out here. So yes, I got into detox and that, but I knew I was going to be moving at some point when the time was right. And I came out here. Yeah. And listen, that's where my heart was at. Like when I want to help people, I want to help people that are still sick, still struggling, still that community out there. I just want people to see that you can do it. No matter how late you start in life, you can do it. And that's a good thing. Like you on TikTok, I follow a lot of people on TikTok that are in recovery that are sharing their stories. Um and it's amazing. And I feel like I feel like recovery, sobriety, and that, yeah, there's still a stigma on us for sure. You know that'll never go away. But people are recovering out loud, and they're not scared to talk about their past, to talk about their addiction, to talk about their struggles. And I think most of us that are out here doing this is like we're still trying to bring in all these people who are sick and suffering. And that's the best part of this. Like, man, the fentanyl wasn't really out. It was coming out when I was going in, but it wasn't like it is today. I'm scared. Like, I don't want to do anything like today because you
Right.
don't know what the hell's in that shit. It's in everything.
Yeah. So I did an interview for a news station yesterday at church, and the guy asked me, he's like, "Hey, cuz talking about all the fentanyl thing." And he's like, "Hey, you guys don't ever think of that?" And I was like, "No, no." I said, "Even back then when it wasn't really too big, I didn't think that maybe this batch has something in there that's going to kill me. We're just going to use it and hopefully it doesn't put us in the ground." But I said, "We don't think about that." I said, it may
Yeah.
be different now with all this fentanyl." I said, "But back then it wasn't."
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't. I mean, you know what? I tried to take my life. And I don't know how I made it. It must have been a God thing. Like God's like, you're not done here. But in my addiction, when I was just so bad and I was just so I was just in a bad place, man. Like I said, I would cry, I would go to detox. I'd be like, I don't want to live this life no more. And I could not bring myself out of it. I needed prison to get out of that life. Like I had to have prison. Nothing else was going to get me out of that life. But so I did a big old shot of heroin and I took, I don't know how many Xanax, but I should not be alive right now. I don't know how I woke up. And it was a couple days later before I woke up. Really, I don't know how I survived through that because I meant to take my life that night. I did not want to be there anymore. And I mean, and I done a shot of heroin that should have took me out in the first place, but along with the Xanax, like there's no way I should have lived through that. I don't know. I don't know how I woke up from that. I mean, it had to have been God. Like, hey, I'm not done with you. Like, and at that time I didn't believe in God, so that wasn't what I thought woke me up. But you know, um, yeah, so that and now, yeah, we don't think about that.
No.
No, we think about getting high and feeling good and yeah, and but now, and I was in Phoenix, Arizona, it's huge and, big population. And, like when I would go out on the streets and I was talking to people and I was picking up people. I was a peer support. I had an EMT with me. My main job was transportation. And so on our downtime, we would go out to, the streets and we would talk to people and try to see if they wanted help. If they didn't want help, so okay, so be it. Here's some water. This, if I can do anything for you. And a lot of the times you're just out there hitting the streets and you don't really know what impact you're having on people. And at that point it doesn't really matter. But me out there hitting the streets and telling people my story and being like, hey, look at, like what everything that you're doing right now, I done that shit too, and just showing them, and there's a lot of people who don't want to get clean, but it was pretty shocking to me from when I went in to when I got out, how bad it had gotten and how like I was watching people just at the bus stops smoking pills, doing drugs, shooting up at the bus stops. Um, and I just driving by and I'm like, what the fuck? Like I that would not have been me. I'd have been behind a garbage can, behind a store somewhere, like, but it's just so out there now. And especially in the bigger cities and stuff. And it's just super sad.
Right.
And
And then
it's sad.
I guess they have something even stronger than fentanyl, the car fentanyl or whatever, where they're trying to make it
Yep.
stronger.
Yep.
Why? Why would you make that stronger?
Yeah, I mean, look at the people on the street. I mean, and you know what? And by the grace of God, nothing of that life like looks appealing to me. Nothing about that.
Right.
So, you know, and I don't hey, like so there were some times I was out working and some people were on some real shit like and I kind of sit there and I'll be like, laughing in my head like, "Well, look at this motherfucker. Like he just on some shit." You know what I mean? It's not funny. It's not funny. And honestly, even though in the back of my head I'd be like, man, some of the shit kind of comical. But when I see stuff like that and I see the hurt in people, I see, I there was a posting a while back ago, you see a thief, you see a drug addict, you see just a piece of shit. You see worthless, and what I see is me.
Right.
I see me wanting out of that so bad. And not everybody wants out. Like, not some people are okay. I don't know, like, because I was never okay with my life, but I was okay because I was getting high.
Yeah. It was a survival
So,
mechanism.
mm-hmm,
So
yeah.
it leads me to
So,
this question. For someone still stuck in addiction, what truth do they need to hear?
well, your addiction person is not you. That person you're in addiction is a facade. That's not you. Listen, when I went to prison, I thought I knew myself. I didn't know myself. I took me a long time to get to know myself, and I'm still getting to know myself. Um, and I struggle. I struggle. Like I moved out here with this boyfriend, and I love him. I I and first of all, we've had a love friendship for a long time, and I think we mixed that up a little bit with our love at first. Cuz we had a rough time when I got here, like, and I'm not really going to get into all that, like, but I'm still working on myself, and that I was talking to my parole officer the other day, and they're like, oh, she told me, my parole officer has been really amazing, and she's told me some really amazing things here lately, because I've gotten into not really a slack, but I'm not as involved in the recovery community as I would like to have been, or as that I was in Arizona, because it's just not out here. Um, but she keeps pressuring me to do peer support out here. And she's like, because we need you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I kind of on the, yeah and no. And it's just so hard out here. And then I kind of thought a lot about what she said. And I've reached out. I'm trying to get I'm going to try to get my peer support, I think, out here, because I could do that part time, basically. Um, I can continue working where I'm working now, continue with a job, and then I'll basically be part time. I called and talked to the guy, and I can have the caseload that I want, how many ever I want. My probation officer, parole officer is like, you have a story, and like, I think you would be good in the schools, and like, she's made me really think, and she's been amazing. She's been supportive with like I said, we've had a lot of struggles. I moved down here and I immediately moved in with my boyfriend, and I moved out within a month. Um got my own place, and there are several reasons for that. Like, I've been by myself for 7.5 years. Not really by myself, but by myself. I've been surrounded with girls, but I have my own little area, and I like my space. And I'm still learning a lot about myself. When I get mad, I shut down. And that's become a coping mechanism for me, because I don't want to say things that are hurtful, and I don't want to be mean. And maybe that's not, I don't think, without saying like too much, like, we're all learning, whether it be me, whether it be him. He comes from a life of addiction too. Although he's been clean for many years, he still drinks here and there. And his problem isn't alcohol and drugs and stuff, but I think there's probably, some things that he needs to figure out for himself, and maybe like a little bit of anger. He's got some anger issues, and he lashes out and says things that are hurtful. You know what I mean? And I read a room, I read things, I read into things a lot. And if I don't like a way someone's making me feel, like, and I've been with one guy in the last 9 years, like, that's saying something about me, because I mean, you know, I'd be, doing the most out there, and boyfriend to boyfriend, and I'm proud that, and I want to be with him. I want to be with him more than anything. Like, I have love for this guy. I do love him. But my heart is a little more guarded right now, and I'm kind of tiptoeing around that, and we're both working on things, and I see he's working on things too. It's not an overnight progress. We're both very stubborn. So I think when we get into it, we kind of lock horns, and we both, that giving, that moment of giving for both of us is kind of hard, you know. But like I said, I don't want to be with anybody else. I really want to be with him I want a relationship. I want that one person, but I also want to feel loved, and I want to feel appreciated, and I want to feel supported. And um I'm trying, like, I can't make him do those things. I can't make him like show me the love that I want. I can't. I don't know. I I do love him. I want to be with him. We are doing a lot better. The last couple months we're doing a lot better than we were before. But like I said, and here's another thing. I don't know what's healthy. I've been in so much unhealthy relationships that it's hard for me to decipher what's healthy.
Right.
We had an issue the other day, and I called and I talked to my sister about it the next day. And it was kind of stupid. We went in town together, and he we went in town together, basically went our own ways in Walmart. And then when he was done, he called me and was like, he was ready to go, and he wanted me to bring him the keys to the car. And I'm like, I instantly get mad, because now you want me to stop what I'm doing, walk there to give you the keys to the car when you couldn't call me before you checked out to see where I was to get the keys to the car. So I left my car and I immediately got in the car, and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I was mad. So we drove back and we didn't say anything. And then it's like a 45-minute drive to Walmart. And like halfway back, he said, hey, I apologize for whatever that was, which is big progress. Like you know, um, and I'm still pissed. Like, I take him home, I'm like, whatever, drop him off, and I go home. And the next day, I was talking to my sister, and she's like, those are healthy. Like, that's not something that's unusual and something that's totally off the wall and crazy. Cause she's like, my husband does that with me. Like, he wants to go, and I'm like, hey, it was probably nothing that's unhealthy in a relation, like unheard of in a relationship. But you got to set your boundaries. Hey, like, listen, we're going to go to town together. We're going to do go our separate ways. Like, have consideration, bro. Like, call me before you're going to check out.
Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, like, it was stupid. I had to drive back into town the next day, 45 minutes to Walmart because of my little attitude and my tantrum. Like, stupid. I should have been like, fuck him. Like, here's the keys. I'm gonna finish doing what I'm doing. But no, I had to get a little tantrum and whatever. It was stupid, but we're both learning.
Yeah.
And I see him growing too and trying. Like, I know he wants to be with me. I know I don't know if he loves me. I think he has friendship love for me for sure. I know that much. But does he really love me? I like the love I want. I don't know. Time will tell.
Time will tell.
Yeah. So I'm getting ready to get off parole in 2 months. My parole officer, I had my last visit with her until my next visit, which will be my final visit. And she's just been talking to me a lot about wanting me to do this peer support, wanting me to do this, wanting me to do that. And so I might, like, to go get my peer support here in North Dakota, I would have to take a week off of work. And I don't have no PTO at this point because I used it going to Oregon. And so, but is it worth it in the long run? Probably. And I still want to help people. So I want to give a shout out to you for, first of all, because you're just doing amazing things. And getting to watch a lot of people on TikTok and a lot of people just coming out from where we were, it's just really cool to see. And it makes my heart so happy. But also, there's a couple things in Arizona. There's a couple girls that I was in prison with that there's a convicted comeback. They go back into the prison and they're sharing their stories. They're helping girls. They're doing just some stuff in prison. There's also a girl on TikTok, Sober Flower, another girl I was in prison with going back into the prison. Have you heard of the newsletter, The Light?
Mm-mm.
No,
No.
it's making it into prisons all over now. She got out of prison. She started writing a newsletter just for the girls in prison. that she was in there with. And now this letter is reaching prisons all over, out of the country and everything. So it's just really cool to see people blooming and trying to give back. And there is there's life after addiction. There really is. And like I said, I had to go to prison, and it's really hard. I know. Wow, when you're stuck in that, I know how hard it is, but you gotta let go.
Right.
You got to let go of that lifestyle. You got to stop surrounding yourself with those people. You may still think that those people are your homies. Like I do have some people like that I ran the streets with that were my good friends. And yeah, I did track down a couple people looking for them when I got out. Sadly, a few of them I think are dead. I'm pretty positive are dead. Um, but there's a couple, I had a street brother who he's been clean. I have another couple of friends that I was with that we were all in the same trap house together, and they've got two kids and a family, and they're living clean and sober. So getting to see people and knowing like we all come from the same spot, man. Whew, like gives me chills. Like, you know, God is God can do things, like, and he's not, that's another thing. Like, my relationship with God was like, he did not come out of those clouds and be like, ooh, here I am, like answering all your questions and giving you all those feelings. It wasn't. The 12-step program really put me in touch with God. And you know what? A lot of people have a stigma about 12-step programs because of God. And just because I found God in that 12-step program does not mean that that's what you have to believe. It's just something, a power greater than yourself. It could be a tree, it could be whatever. It doesn't have to be God. Just because God is written in that, that doesn't. I give a shout out to 12-step programs, all of them, AA, NA, AA, HA, CA, all of that. You know what I mean? That and the 12 steps, like, they clean you out, man. That and they just that's really where, like I said, my relationship with God and stuff really came into play. And not you don't have to believe in God to go there or do it, or yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any questions for me?
So, okay, I've been listening and watching some of your podcasts, and so I've listened to a couple of them. I want to touch on Miguel's story because, after we decided to do this podcast, I was like, and I was already seeing you a bunch on my TikTok, and I was following you actually. And then you had posted, you were looking for people and whatever. And anyway, so I had listened, the first podcast I listened to was Miguel's, and I was at work, and man, his story.
I
Fuck.
know.
Dude, that sucks, bro.
I
Like,
know.
I mean, to just be in that gang life, to be, you know what I mean? And he had what, two or three sentences before, and he had been in
Yeah.
there for literally reason he should have been in there before. But this last reasoning that he went in there was protecting his family, walking through the hood. You know what I mean? And like he said, that fight didn't make him angry. Them beating up on his girl that was 2 months pregnant is what pissed
Yeah.
him off and made him pull that gun.
Yeah.
So shout out to Miguel, and but he's doing, he's staying out of I'm proud of him. He's staying out of that riffraff in prison, and he's not losing hope, and he believes, that he'll get out someday. And that next morning, every morning when I wake up, I get on my knees and I pray. I started that in prison, and I continue it to this day. And that's my time in the morning with God. But that next morning, when I was on my knees, I prayed for Miguel, and like, just because, he could be in there doing the most, you know what I mean? He's got a phone
Right.
in there he paid
Yeah.
a fucking stupid amount of money for.
Yep.
But I get it. I mean, he wants to, and that's crazy. It's not that it's only a contraband ticket, like it's not
Right.
a, and they're trying to make it a felony charge. But whew, that price of that phone, but I understand. And but yeah, my heart went out to that man. Like, and his girl for sticking by him
Yeah,
and being there, and
absolutely.
he's just, yeah, he's just trying
It's
to,
that's him having the phone is like his only way to, how do I put this? Because yeah, they have the tablets, they have the video calls, they have the regular phone calls, they have the visit, right? But there's a timestamp on those. There's like a 15 minutes for the phone call, maybe
oh,
30
I know.
minutes for the visit. So him
Yep.
having that phone, he's able to actually be a dad, be there for his kids
Yeah.
in a whole different way, but he can still be there. He can still
Right.
be a husband, he
Right.
can still be a son, you know?
Right.
And it's like,
Right.
I don't know
Yeah.
why they're so, I mean, I understand why corrections are so tough on it and only allow certain things like they want to have the supervision over it, right? Well, if
Right.
you want to have the supervision over it, why don't you allow them to make calls from their tablet? Why don't you allow them to video chat? As long as you're making money off of it, who cares?
Right.
Maybe you're gonna reduce the people getting in trouble, right? Because not everybody can
Right.
afford a cell phone, but
No.
the state gives everybody tablets, and then the
Hmm.
people put money. I'm not too sure how it all works, but why not
Oh,
make
I
it a
do. I had
yeah?
a tablet.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
why not make it unlimited so they don't have to go out to the day room to do a video call. They can do a video call in their cell, right? It's still monitored.
Right.
Like you would
Right.
reduce people getting in trouble so much.
Right. Right. And the tablets, people are like, I've heard some people be like, why they got tablets in prison? Like they shouldn't have any of that.
Right.
Listen, when you go to prison, like those tablets are super janky as hell for one. And for two, there is very limited what you can do on it. Yeah, you can purchase some games, you can purchase movies, you can get like this very limited. They're on what you can do. They're just very basic tablets. However, um, when I was in, so I don't know how it is in or California, or I don't remember how it is in Oregon. I think is Oregon is the same. So you can call like for anybody that I wanted to call, I had to have on my 20s list in Arizona prison. And to get on your 20s list, you had to go through a visitation application, even if it's just for phone calls. So, right there, like most people are going to get denied because
Right.
or whatever. But it's a process that people had to go through. So, for you to make phone calls out to the world, they had to be on your 20s list and whatever. And then right before I left prison, they started allowing us to make phone calls to whoever we wanted to on our tablets. However, they just took that away. They took it back away because from what I heard, because I have some girls that I still, have contact, and there is like people were getting on there and they were calling people that they weren't supposed to be calling victims. They were harassing people. There's always those people to fuck that shit up, and so they went back to their 20s list, and it sucks, dude, because so many people were talking to their families, man, their kids, and that's a huge thing. Communication to the outside world. Like I had my couple of my sisters were on my visitation, but only phone calls. I never had any visits from my family. I never had any visit. My daughter, I didn't have any communication with her until 3 years into my sentence is when her grandma finally let me start talking to her. And but my relationship with her today is great. It's amazing. Um, I but so I did get to see her a couple times at the end of my sentence. And Yeah, so I didn't have any friend. All my family was in Oregon. I was in Arizona by myself, but I needed that time alone. And I my two sisters, they they did the best they could answering their phones, and you know how it is when they don't answer, call right back.
Yeah.
Answer, call right back. You know, um I gained a relationship with one of my sisters. Basically, we started out in prison because all my brothers and sisters are all younger than me, and most of my brothers and sisters don't know addiction life. Um, they were too young to see what my parents were, and yeah, I don't want to go too much into that because we've been on here a long time, but um, I really started a relationship with my sister Trisha over the phone. And then I got out, and we've been and we talk all the time. We FaceTime. I got to go to Oregon for my first time in over 15 years. I hadn't seen most of my family in over 15 years. And I got to go to Thanksgiving and see my family. And it was it was just it was super amazing because I could just see in all my family's eyes how proud they are of me and how much they trust me. Like my brother, my brother and his wife, but like I was gonna rent a car and we went out to Thanksgiving and my sister was talking to my sister-in-law was like, "Oh, Tara's going to pick up a rental tomorrow." And she's like, "Why is she doing that? She can take she can take my car while she's here." Like, "What?" Like,
Yeah.
I can take their car. I was allowed to be in their house without being like I show up at their house and they'd be like, not even open the door. Like,
Yeah.
"You ain't coming in." Like, let alone take a car, let alone, um so I just like trusted, like it's just super cool to see, and my family is just so proud of me, and I want to set points of me wants to move back to Oregon, but right now I'm good where I'm at, and because I want to be with my family, you know what I mean, but I'm good where I'm at right now, and I need to see, I'm here for the guy I'm with too, and cost of living here. I
Right.
was checking out the cost of living in Oregon and what I would make in Oregon, and like yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm
And
blessed.
yeah. Amen. Anything else from me?
No, well, hold on here. Yeah, no, I've listened to your podcast and watch your podcast, and so I've gotten all the answers that I've needed by watching because of the questions
Yeah.
already. So I know a little bit of your background story. I'm super proud of you.
Thank you.
You're doing amazing, dude, and hopefully, obviously, I follow you on TikTok, and we'll stay in contact and
Yeah.
just keep doing what you're doing.
So God opened the door this year. You probably heard that I'm able to go into junior high schools right now and go speak. And then
Yes.
last night I did an interview with the news for at my buddy's church. They videoed him about the fentanyl crisis because he's really big in that movement. And
Hmm.
he told him to interview him. I told the guy about a little bit what was going on, what I do, and he's gonna go to the school and put it on the news as well.
Nice. Nice.
And then
Just yeah,
that whole school district wants me to go use all their schools.
yes.
So it's a
Hey,
it's
and my parole officer was just telling me that the other day. She's like, "Hey, you would be good in schools.
yeah,
I want you out there talking in schools because she's like, how old were you when you first picked up your first drug? I was 12 or 13 when I started smoking weed and drinking.
yeah,
I mean, I didn't get into meth until I was 17, but still, that little, and that little bit, if you could just steer people, and when I first started using, I was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna use once, or I'm not gonna be like everybody else." It grabs you.
right.
It's not like that. You
No,
can't just once you're in it, you can't just set that crap down.
no.
So shout out to everything you're doing.
Thank
Lots
you.
and lots and lots and lots of love. And we'll
Thank
be in
you.
contact,
Yeah,
and I hope to talk to you soon.
yeah. So do me a favor. You're at 99% upload. Wait till yours reaches 100, and then I gotta wait
Okay.
on here a little bit. But I'm gonna cut recording right now.
Okay.
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 All right.
All right.